Good afternoon. This is Seth Moore coming to you again on Anchor by Spotify by way of Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Amazon, Apple Music, and many, many more host sites where you can visit us and listen twice a week on podcasts that we bring you on World News. We're going to just kind of review some things that we talked about on the other day, and then we'll be going into a new episode on talking about the ego. That will be our subject matter today. It's a chilly 50 degrees day and sunny in the Love State. So stay with us and we will continue this podcast in just a moment. Okay, we're here back again with you. This is Seth Moore, of course, coming again here on the World News website here on Anchor by Spotify. We hope that you're having a great afternoon, and we know that there are many of you who are more than likely out to lunch, or you're doing your due diligence to maintain with work and staying consistent. So, what are we talking about today? First thing, we want to go over some things that we've been mentioning in the last couple of podcasts we've been talking about. On yesterday evening, we were talking about the golden ratio and sacred geometry. You know, and there were some things that I was thinking about, and we were talking about as well how the mind is not you, and how you're wrestling with thoughts and you're competing with your own thoughts, or thoughts may not be your own thoughts. I recant that. And you're competing with thoughts that are competing with other thoughts. And you participate by giving your body over to your mind. And if you remember when I said that you are not your mind, but you're within your body. And it is your body that really processes the thoughts before they actually reach your mind. And I mentioned intuition of you knowing certain things. But if you continue to compete with your thoughts, it's only because you don't understand what is actually working within you and working outside of you. And this is where the ego comes in. Because you have a need to know and to control, but not realizing that you're actually being controlled. So what is this need? This need is self-identifying. It's about having preservation. It's about knowing that you have within yourself a level of continuity and a level of control where you feel as though you're navigating the ship, so to speak. Okay? So, one of the things that you can tell when someone is working out of ego, and we're going to read some things to you. Is they look for self what am I trying to say here? They look for self, if you could call it self-gratification, or there's a level of self-validation. That's the word I'm looking for. So when you feed that monster, it continues to have a appetite, and it wants more. And it's often guys in a mask of, I'm being humble, I'm operating out of humility. But really what it is, it's like a reflection of, I really want recognition. I really want you to feed me so that I don't feel less than, because underneath all of it, it's really a level of inferiority or self-identifying, so it comes in many forms. And then it's where the level of putting out information and wanting to receive the gratification back. But this is critical. Psychoanalysts or psychoanalytic theory, it talks about the portion of human personality which is experienced as self or I. When people say I or self, when they're saying I, and you know how there's been said before many times that there's no I in team. So if someone is on a quest to receive gratification or self-identification, then it works out of a real underlying tone of I. And so is that humility, or is that something that is for the better good? Or is one seeking recognition? And it says that according to psychoanalytic theory, the ego coexists with the ID. It needs identification, said to be an agency of primitive drives, and superego considered to be the ethical component of personality, as three agencies propose, and this is Freud's etymology, okay, description of these dynamics in the human mind. And if you remember when I talked about the mind, and I said how the mind wants to be in rule of you. And what happens is the mind wants to be in rule of you because, in fact, you really don't know how it works. And the mind can trick you. It can actually trick you into doing what it wants to do. Because, again, you are not the mind. You're outside of the mind, but you're in your body. Okay? And the thoughts are being processed, okay, against your body because you don't control the thoughts and what it should do, okay? And that goes for every human on this planet. Even myself, if I don't control my thoughts, meaning that if I'm not outside of the mind, and I detach myself from thoughts that are being created by other thoughts, and if I don't understand this, then I'm in a constant battle with the thought process because I haven't divorced myself from this ego that's constantly warring within my head, okay? Because I'm on a quest to achieve something and I don't understand or understand it's already been achieved. That's just through assumption. And lending the feelings to that assumption knowing that it's already done. So when I lend the feelings of assumption and feelings and line the thoughts that I create, not the thoughts that the mind is creating for me, but the thoughts that line up with the assumption and feeling and having all that balance, I can divorce myself from the thoughts because I know it's already done. So I don't no longer have to even think about it. But having the need to continue to bring thoughts to that process, meaning that I have to continue to say something about the very thought that should already have been solidified in that process, okay, where I don't have to revisit it again. Okay, just like I'm saying to you about what we had revisited before. You say, well, Seth, you're saying it again. I'm not. I'm giving you new information. And one of the things that, another process where you can actually tell when the ego is at play, when you are clearly able to separate yourself from your own ego, okay, and to lend yourself to the ascension of someone else and say, and congratulate, I congratulate, and I'm lifting you up. And when someone who can see something about another person and you may not get the same congratulatory output, you know that a person, individual, may be operating out of their ego because there's a need there's a need. There's a strong need to want to be seen or want to be heard. Sometimes without even realizing it. You know, there are people who will look at your, for instance, social media has become, in a lot of ways, a bad place, particularly for black people, because when they created social media for black folks, this is where is a place that's created where it created a stage for people's egos. And why do you say that, Steph? Because now here is a place where people who have never had any ability to, for lack of a better word, shine, now they have a platform, you know? And I don't say this to be pejorative or to, make anyone feel any kind of way, because people will do that on their own. They'll do it on their own. But the reason why I say that social media has become a platform and an arena for people who have never had a stage to shine before is almost like giving them poison. Because now they have, some of the things that you even hear is just so outlandish, it's so crazy. You'd be like, did I just hear that? And then there are people who are on a quest of competition. See, this is where the ego comes in. Because you feel, because you see someone else doing something, they're just gifted by the Creator. You see someone else doing something, and rather than you celebrating that individual, you take it as a threat. And so you have to try to you'll create a whole program, or you'll create a whole narrative to have some validation to say that you exist. See, all of this is in thought processes, in mind process, that you feel the need to do that. So it would say that there's something going on that is not in wholeness. Because you'll look at people's thing and you will scroll and see, let me say this too. And a lot of you are aware of this. A lot of you know this. You're very aware of this. And that is, people will look at your stuff on social media and they'll scroll right by. They have such competitive, low, how can I put it? They have such a diminutive view of themselves that it's hard for them to like anything anyone else is doing. And trust me, they watch what you do. They watch what you do, and they'll go on and see what you're doing, and they'll go right by it. But these are people who are in their ego, and yet they want to make you think they're so for the cause, and they're so for lifting everyone up, but yet they're operating out of their ego, because if you have no problem with yourself, it's nothing for you to lift someone else up. So when you have a problem in lifting another person up, then it means that you are not genuine. You're fake. You're not genuine in what you say and what you do. And it's unfortunate that you have that deprivation that you're dealing with. Because as I said, a lot of people have never had a platform. And so now they have a platform where they can showcase, and it's off to the races. You know? You can't say that I'm for cohesiveness and collectiveness amongst community, and then you don't do the things that follow that. And I wonder, well, I really don't wonder, because I know. But we are people who are self-sabotaging. We sabotage ourselves. We sabotage our communities. We sabotage any growth that we can have collectively because of ego. And I'm not saying that none of us can work together, because we do have some of us who work in pockets doing different things, but I'm talking about collectively, because oftentimes we're too individual. We want individual fame. We want individual aggrandizement. We want that monster to be fed. So when we're working out of this mind is controlling that. It doesn't allow you to escape from those thoughts that control and battle every day within the vortex of your ego. Because there's a constant battle of thought that you don't have control over. Because you believe that mind is you. You've accepted that mind is you, when in fact the mind is really not you. And I said this before, it is outside of you, because everything is in your body. Your body, that is the vessel. That is the sacredness of who you are, is in your body, not your mind. You have to master your mind. Okay? And you use your mind when it's necessary. And that may sound crazy, because you might like, man, I use my mind every day, but you may be using your mind in the wrong way. And this is why I'm saying what I'm saying. This is exactly why I'm saying what I'm saying, because oftentimes the mind is being used in the wrong way. And you're relying on it to do everything, rather than saying, let me empty myself. See, because for even those who are Christians, who call themselves Christians, you have to die to live again. You have to die to be reborn. How can you say that you're a new creature if you haven't died? You have to die to your ego. You have to die to your mind. You have to die to a lot of the desires that you have, because they don't line up with who you are. They don't line up with who you are, because your higher self is not your lower self. And if you're vibrating on a lower tier, that is your ego. And you can't find yourself in the higher spheres of existing, because you're on the lower vibrational frequency. And, you're competing with your ego. That's what you're doing. And you are depriving yourself of your higher existence, your essence, because you're competing with your ego. And you really think that you're really making progress, but you're kind of like, you're going around, you're doing the same thing. And, you might be like, oh, who you think you are, man, telling me that? Brother, you better keep it real. I'm keeping it real, brother, sister. A lot of us are competing with our egos. And I'm not saying, that doesn't say that you're not doing anything good. I'm just saying that come up. We need to come up. Because when you, and this is the key, when you divorce yourself from your ego, then magic happens. Everything that you desire that is good and aligned with making the universe a better place manifests itself. Okay? That's what happens. And you be like, well, how you know this? Well, maybe it's because it's my attempt in everything that's within me, to make certain that I'm out of mind. I'm out of mind. You understand what I mean? You understand? I'm out of mind. When I say I'm out of mind, I'm not in the process of thought that's me. That's not me. And it's not you once you realize that it's not you, but it's entirely something else outside of you that's actually, or in you, that's telling you how to function. Disorder came from order. Fear came from courage. Weakness came from strength. An enemy is a friend who knows too much about you. That is your mind. That's the enemy. The enemy is your mind. And you think it's your friend. It is your mind. Because if the enemy wasn't your mind, then why do people do some of the things that they do? Because after it's been processed, it absolutely goes to their mind. And they don't know what to do with it. Because, again, as I mentioned, those thoughts, those bodies of thoughts that are in your head wrestling with thoughts, you don't divorce yourself from them. Yes, so we are it doesn't matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop. The skillful artist will not alter his measures for the sake of a stupid workman. Do not seek otherwise. You will lose. Do not seek and you will find. And it's not the same as being said in your body, seeking ye shall find, knocking the door shall be open, and all this. See, because a lot of people are seeking for the wrong things. They're seeking for the wrong things. And they're seeking selfishly. You can't expect anything if you're seeking with a selfish heart. So, again, when you seek that way, obviously we know that that's the ego. And we're going to, let's do this, and we're going to finish up. I just wanted to come on here today and just give you a little something. Ego, according to Freud, comprises executive functions of personality by serving as the integrator of an outer and inner worlds as well as of the ID. In other words, an identifier. And the superego. Superego gives continuity and consistency into behavior to providing a personal point of reference which relates to the events of the past, retained in memory, with actions of the present and of the future, presented in anticipation and imagination. The ego is not coextensive with either the personality or the body. As I mentioned earlier, the ego is outside of the body. Although the body concepts form of the core of early experiences of self, the ego, once developed, is capable of change throughout life, particularly under conditions of threat, illness, and significant changes in life circumstances. So when you threaten the ego diverts to another route of existing. And it's capable of change, okay, under conditions of threat, illness, and significant changes in life circumstances. So they say that a newborn infant reacts but cannot control and anticipate or alter sources of stimulation, be they external or internal. At this stage, perception is primitive and diffuse. Motor activity is gross and uncoordinated, and self-locomotion is impossible. Okay. And they say the learning is limited to the simplest type of stimulus response conditioning. But this is key right here. At the outset, perception, motor activity are closely tied with stimulation, immediately provoking motor action, the delay of action, while tolerating the consequence tensions. It is the basis for all more advanced ego functions. This delay is prototype of the ego's role in later personality functioning. The learned separation of stimulus to response allows the interposition of more complex intellectual activities, such as thinking, imagining, and planning. So what does your mind tell you in its activity of planning and motor functioning? As the individual continues to develop, the ego is further differentiated and the superego develops. And the superego represents the inhibitions of instinct and the control of impulses through the incorporation of parental and societal standards. Thus, moral standards as perceived by the ego become part of the personality. Conflict a necessary ingredient it's a necessary ingredient, psychology, the arousal of two or more strong motives that cannot rather be solved together. A youngster, for example, may want to go to a dance to feel that he belongs to a group and does what his friends do. For an adolescent in Western culture, that is a strong motive, but the youth may, in fact, be a clumsy dancer, insensitive to the real imagined ridicule of his fellows. Therefore, he also has a motive to avoid the dance, to escape humiliation. He is in a dilemma. Whether he goes or stays, he will experience distress. This type of situation is termed an approach avoidance conflict psychologically, and a conflict exists when the reduction of one's motivating stimulus involves an increase in another, so that a new adjustment is demanded. So what is your adjustment demanding in your psychoanalytic thinking? If you are deprived of things that you actually want to do, and the mind is telling you, well, the only way to get it done is to make this particular adjustment, and even though I may not know how to do this, I am going to find another way to compensate for that, because I need to show that I can actually do this. And I don't want to feel left out, and I don't want to feel like, I'm being embarrassed because my friends, they can do it, so I need to do it too. So anyways, we are going to stop right here, and we're going to come back again, of course. And we're hoping that you're having a great day. And as always, like and share. And we'll be seeing you in the next podcast. Stay high, stay vibrant, stay loved. Until the next time, lift up your brothers, lift up your sisters. It's only for your own elevation. You can't rise by yourself. You need to take others with you. Stay solvent, spiritually, emotionally, financially, and universally. Till the next time, you guys have a great afternoon, and we'll see you soon.